So we have got in the bottom right hand side the blue Zerg player here, RagnaroK, in the PCFORMAN Super Tournament, an event put on by Team GP. Happened last week or so. These are the replays. A lot of people were very excited for us to cast this series in particular, which is RagnaroK in the bottom right, taking on the upper left hand side the red Terran player GuMiho, who's obviously back from the military, and that's all exciting. And I actually haven't casted him yet. I've seen him play in a couple of tournaments, like a couple of online events, but I've not actually casted any of his games. So I'm really excited that A, that he's back, and B, that we get him in this event here. So hoping for a good series. And hey, Dr. Straggy, what's up? Thank you so much for the 4-month resub on the Prime, just as we get this best of 3 underway. So this is best of 3. This is being cast from replays, guys. We'll be obviously live with DreamHack qualifiers in a little bit. And yeah, let's see what we get into at the start of this TvZ. So if you're unfamiliar with GuMiho, if you're more, you're new as Starcraft here, essentially. GuMiho was a player who won GSL, was absolutely the underdog to win GSL, but did it. He was one of the players to give Sue a second place finish. And yeah, it was just one of these guys that kind of showed up, had his own style, and he said himself, I'm not a player that excels mechanically. I'm not a player that's the best in the world at not being supply blocked and, making workers and multitasking, all these things. He said, but my strategy allows for me to kind of still play at such a high level. And a lot of the time he came up with very creative mech builds, and I'd be surprised not to see mech here. I don't know if that's something he's still doing. Obviously, it's been a while, but that was such a defining feature of his play, it would be kind of surprising not to. I mean, GuMiho was the player who kind of introduced Battle Mech. He actually sat on, you remember there was a while where it was like in TvT, people went like Hyperflight Rotor Banshees in TvT and then played mech off it. He sat on that build apparently for like months, waiting to use it in like a big important match. And then brought it out and won with it, and it became a star for a while. Still seen every now and then. Yeah, here's a real innovator. As right now, he tries to innovate his way out of trouble here with these first few Zerglings, causing some real chaos. I mean, the first Marine just went down, so losing that first Marine obviously opens the way for these Lings to cause a lot of chaos, and obviously CC now not building is going to be a little bit stuck in place, and that's going to slow us down a little bit. So that's not the best start for GuMiho. RagnaroK definitely finding value with the pool first. We've seen the CC taking a little bit of damage. Lyra is building up, and that link speed will be finishing fairly soon. So just getting that link speed completed. Obviously with the lair very quickly here from RagnaroK, we're expecting something fairly aggressive to be coming through in the fairly near future. So watching to see exactly what that will be. A couple of extractors will begin. Overlord is going to go down, and again, it's going to be seeing the Marine still hanging around on the top side. Banshee coming up. Cloak is on the way. Another couple of Hellions continuing on out. It's just going to be seeing a Zergling getting picked off on that ramp. This Viking through the bottom side is looking for a little bit of action here as well. Is actually going to be able to find this Overlord. So Overlord will start to take a little bit of damage. It's going to push back slightly here as, it's a very fast Spire, so that's the go-to here from RagnaroK. I was kind of wondering, such a fast lair. Maybe thinking more of a Nidus personally, but Spire will do the trick as well, and we'll see how well he can play with these Mutalisks in the near future to set himself up in this game now. See how Lang's going on a little bit of a move out, and they're just going to head across to the upper side of the map. And other than that, just, Spire, Bane Nest. Yeah, everything very standard. GuMiho's playing Bio as well, so he's not going to be playing Mech here, so you're going to get to see GuMiho with a bit of Bio. That Banshee well, just flew straight into Queen, so that wasn't really something we want to linger on. That wasn't pretty. Trying to get a little bit hyped up about GuMiho, that definitely wasn't the play to get hyped up on, so... Yeah, just, one of those situations where the Banshee doesn't have cloak or anything, right? It was kind of a safety Banshee. Because all in all, though, GuMiho's build in general looks pretty solid. Obviously, we'll see how well he deals with these incoming Mutalisks. A lot of the time, if you can deal with these Mutas at this stage of the game, you can just put yourself in a really good spot, because the Zerg banks so much on these Mutas. Being able to slow the Terran down, deal some damage. These Lings right now are doing better than expected, as it took a little while for the Hellions to come and join in to help clear that out. One of the really cool things for GuMiho, by the way, he got picked back up by Sizestorm, and I think that's so cool. He was on Sizestorm for a long time before he stopped playing and went to the military. Really cool to see Sizestorm pick him back up and believe in him as he returns to professional play. These Mutas going to go tag up a little bit at the front. Those depots will take a few shots of damage. Widowmine at the front actually trying to help out a little bit as well. He went into a lot of Widowmine production very early, GuMiho. He built, well, 6 mines? Was that 6, or did he actually build 5? Yeah, he built 6 and he's lost 1. There's a lot of Widowmines to be building early game. Like, a lot more than usual. I was going to see a couple of SCVs falling then. Altogether, pretty good defense. Whenever the Mutas aren't breaking through and like clearing out a mineral line, I think you're pretty okay. And he's even got Hellions counterattacking too, so he's not even being kept fully at home during this. It's a few drones. The Hellions obviously cleaned up now, but say another fairly worthwhile attack that we just had happen. Those Mutas will continue across to the upper left. They're going to fly over a Widowmine, something they might want to be a little careful of. First SCV, now second SCV going down. A couple of SCVs already falling. Just going to see the Lings moving out. I'm going to take those rocks, so picking up on the rocks as well. Widowmine's actually doing a great job. That heavy Widowmine opening is actually working wonders. Just leaving a few of them around here and there is going a surprisingly long way for the most part. It's actually doing very well. Like I say, working wonders a little bit as we come through, and we got a few units trying to deal some damage. Obviously, next step of this is going to be a lot of building up, a lot of setting up. We got our Marines going to escape away to the upper right. We got that CC out in the front as well. Upper right corner, we get rid of this medevac, and a couple Marines in total going down. Just going to be seeing, again, a lot more Lings, a lot more Banes continue to be brought on through. 5 drones on the way up as well. So all of this building right now. It is still just looking at the frontier, and they're going to grab a Widowmine to begin with, so a Widowmine already being picked off. The Mutas, again, they're kind of meant to control the game a lot, but I tell you what, GuMiho's just had a good opening. The only thing GuMiho hasn't had a lot of is maybe map control, and that's one thing now which I look at and say, well, that's still not really a thing, especially with Mutas on the map. It's going to be scary for these medevacs to get out, so the creep is all over. Not that GuMiho seems afraid to play a longer game. He's been pretty happy to build up to 4 bases, but he's also not being given much of a choice to play a longer game, right? He's just sort of set himself up into this, and this is kind of just what we're kind of going to be surviving on for now, basically. As that command center starts to morph into the orbital. And what do you otherwise have? Well, the medevac of Widowmines going around the upper right-hand side. So still looking to line up some of those drops, etc. And then Widow Mines again, kind of just getting the job done initially. Well, Widow Mines dropping down. We got a couple more drones or so. Lings and Bane's gonna go rolling toward the Planetary Fortress. Planetary taking a lot of damage. 8 SCVs, 9 SCVs falling. So I mean, good counterattack in from RagnaroK is gonna find some very good damage just honestly to begin with. I mean, just rolls through and shuts down so much of what GuMiho is playing with here. GuMiho is gonna pull back and try and deal with this, but man, I feel like maybe just RagnaroK is in just full control and there's not really much that can be done about it at this stage almost. It's a bit of a shame to already be happening, but see as Muta's continuing through, it's gonna be a goal getting lifted, saved a little bit. Things continuing in as well, but I think we're probably seeing ourselves kind of coming to an end of this first game even, guys. It's just kind of being RagnaroK overwhelming a little bit. GG's. This bottom left side will be our blue Zerg player taking that first game pretty comfortably. It is RagnaroK. Up against the upper right red Terran player, it is of course GuMiho. So get ourselves readied up here for game number 2. 2000 atmospheres. I mean, this was a map that some players were enjoying playing Mech on, so it is a possibility when you talk about GuMiho, and then it's possible then that he might play Mech, and then on this map, absolutely a large possibility. So something for us to look at here initially. Let's see what GuMiho wants to end up giving us with this. Alright, well, I'm just going to see Overlord moving across. This time it is going to be a hatchery first from RagnaroK, so already playing a little bit more standard in that regard. So we can look at that maybe a little bit already and say, okay, well that's something a little bit different so far. Let's see on the way up, and we're just going to put some pressure on, try and keep the Overlord at the far off position. By keeping the Overlord in the far off position, you generally put yourself in a reasonable spot. It's going to be seeing our double gas taken as well. It's not maybe going to be as aggressive as usual, I suppose. Oh, sorry, we're going to be a bit more aggressive than usual, rather than not going to be as eco-focused as usual. Usually a lot of this does come down to that eco-focus, etc. It's going to be having a couple of Hellions on the way in the standard opening here from GuMiho then without a third CC. Do you have knowledge on whether ESL is going to extend the 3-year contract for SC2? I don't think anybody has any information on that. That's something which is completely up to ESL and probably Blizzard as well. It's probably more up to Blizzard than it is ESL, right? Like, because Blizzard are the ones funding the prize money for the tournament, so that's a bit of a question mark for sure. Lings actually get into this natural, and Lings do not have Ling speed. Sorry, Lings do have Ling speed, but they just finished, but there's only a couple of them. 6 workers go down. It's a decent surround the Hellions. We get one more drone at the very end, but it's not a bad start, that's for sure. That's actually really decent damage to begin with here for GuMiho, so should be pretty happy with that to start off with. Now we get ourselves into this Banshee phase. Now, Cloak's going to be finishing up. What we're actually going to be playing here from GuMiho, he's not giving us extra... Okay, there's an extra factory. I was going to say we haven't seen extra gases yet, right? But we see an extra factory started, and that obviously is going to tell us it's mech, and there's the extra gases as well. So I was just looking to see if we'd already seen something to tell us, hey, this is mech instead of its bio. But yes, it is indeed going to be mech. Let's get that about halfway done from RagnaroK right now. The couple overlords about to finish up. A Banelin Nest already starting as well, so Banelin Nest coming through. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what RagnaroK does. The one thing I'm worried about for RagnaroK, okay, he sees its mech now, so he isn't going to be forced to play Lingbane Muta. He can just swap into, like, roaches. Yeah, he's going to put Roach Run down. I was going to say, the one thing I'm worried about is if RagnaroK doesn't see this, the situation RagnaroK seems to find himself in a lot of the time is when he's unaware that it's mech, and then he sets up to play, you know, as though he's playing against bio, and then obviously you're playing against bio, which is obviously not pretty. Then you're playing against mech with Lingbane Muta, and Lingbane Muta can work against mech. It's just definitely not the best way to play against mech. You know, it's definitely not something you should be, like, basically, you know, relying on when it comes to play styles. So yeah, I like to see that he sees the setup, and he will go Roach Run. He will still go Spine, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Playing a few mutas, again, then into Roaches can work really well, in fact. It's just when you're playing Lingbane Muta, because then you really do not have much of a way to fight or to set up at all, and all of that kind of stuff. It really does become a whole new problem. This Banshee come across, and they're going to get just a couple drone kills to begin with, so picking up a couple of those right away. Couple drones going down, we turn around, we get one more drone. Again, just sneaking a little bit of damage out here. Double Thor now on the way up as well, so bringing that those Thors into play. And this is actually kind of a really old school mech build. The double Thor drop used to be very popular way back in the day, actually. But it has been a little while since we saw that. So something kind of cool there, actually. He's going to drop these Thors down, and you can see how cool it is, right? You drop the Thors in, they can actually do very well. The big issue is mutas, right? Because then these medevacs get chased down, and the Thors don't really have a good way out. Initially going for that fourth phase. It's funny because the double Thor drop is something which was actually really a go-to for a long time for Terran players who wanted to play mech. You know, for a long time that just was how you play mech in this matchup, basically. So, yeah, nice to kind of see it coming back a little bit. The mutas show up, and obviously we're just going to have the Thors kind of fighting. Like I say, the medevacs get pushed away. You still get into like a reasonable position, right? I mean, the mutas kind of go down. The Hellbats here are kind of on their own. These Thors can do okay. I'm still just worried they don't have the medevac support, because obviously the medevacs lift them up and save them in a lot of these scenarios, typically. So that's my only immediate concern right now, but it looks as though we're going to be more or less alright overall. More Hellbats and Thors joining back up to the top side. We have Magfield Accelerator on the way out as well, so just bringing that up that little bit too. Magfield coming in. All factory is not far from finishing now. I see the meters coming in overhead, and the Banshee taking a lot of damage as well. Viking shots onto the Mutalisks are adding up that little bit also. I mean, it's trying to do a bit of whatever. Macfield Accelerator actually might be cancelled here, and that would be a real shame. That would actually be a fairly costly loss, because it just removes the effectiveness, especially if the Cyclones start fighting against the... especially if they start fighting against... like roaches and so on, especially if corruptors come up, and that's a thing later in the game usually, but just something you're gonna have to rebuild. So that is a little bit annoying. Now, otherwise we've got smart servers on the way. There's that Macfield restarting. Plenty of Cyclones coming through, so that means it's just been that little bit annoying every now and again. We're going into melee upgrades after just one missile upgrade, so we're gonna have a lot of focus on Ling Bane here anyway, despite an opening which suggested maybe otherwise. Oh, you're seeing these Roaches and Ravagers pushing those Hellions back. The Thor's having to back away with this as well. And there's the Hyperfly Rotors too, so we're even going to see some of these Speed Banshees brought into the mix as well, which is always a little bit exciting on top of it all, so... yeah, kind of a fan of that. I like it. Something a bit different, right? I think that's one of the just the cool things here, right, is that this is absolutely not your most standard game of TvZ. It is definitely something a little bit special in some regards. It's just been a different way of playing mech in total. Now, RagnaroK Roach Ravager coming through, but then he's focused on Ling Bane upgrades, but he doesn't have any Ling Bane here just yet, so I wouldn't like him to actually take a fight right now, because the fight right now just kind of goes against the whole point of, you know, against the setup which you kind of got going for yourself, so... I'd like to just stay away from a fight for the moment, RagnaroK, and then just play into that hive. Obviously, if you need to trade out a few units, free up supply to replace, fair enough. You obviously, at that point, you may as well be taking a fight, but that's something you got to aim for as the Cyclones lock onto a Mutalisk, and that Mutalisk goes down. There's never too many mutas made, right? And that was one of the distinguishments between playing Ling Bane muta and playing this Roach muta style. You know, a few mutas into Roaches, I think, is perfectly great against mech. In fact, I think it's really good. It's when you go Ling Bane muta and you're like massing mutas, and the mech play can just trade very efficiently against you, and if you don't deny that mech player's upgrade, not upgrades, but economy at that stage of the game, then you fall into a whole bunch of trouble as a bunch of banelings go down over here. Gonna turn it back around. A few of these Cyclones having a lock on for a little bit as well. The Bane's come rolling forward. The Hellbats are going to do what they can to help out. Let's see the Roach Ravager going to just about get pushed away. Obviously, GuMiho getting down into a nice aggressive position on this south side. Really putting himself into a pretty decent spot. I like it. It's going to be tough to deal with this because there's not really a good way to flank in from the siege tanks. I mean, the way to deal with this might just be to give up the bottom side and to play around the left-hand side of the map instead. That is genuinely a possibility right here, and that's obviously kind of a crazy possibility too. Two bars coming down, and if GuMiho can keep pushing this position, he might be able to really establish himself into a very good place here. I mean, he really is on the way to doing that already, so... yeah, credit to GuMiho putting himself in a good spot right now. I like it. What comes next, though? I mean, there's still just the same set of units coming up from our Zerg. From GuMiho, it's about just continuing to find efficient trades. I think one of the big things is making sure you have enough Thors available in case your opponent swaps into Broodlords. Obviously, right now, that's not a major issue, because it is just quite a lot of Ling Bane Ravager. RagnaroK wants to use these Vipers to create some efficient trades as well, allowing him to obviously do a little bit better. The Cyclone's out of position a little bit, and unfortunately for RagnaroK, unfortunately for GuMiho, those Vipers are going to get away alive, so he doesn't actually get to kill them despite bringing them very low on HP. And that's a little bit of a shame. Tanks will continue to siege. Spine Crawl's going to poke their way through the couple of Cyclones. Ravager's going to push through. First tank goes down. Now we cross-file up the other couple of tanks. That is going to be the cleanup. GuMiho loses a lot in the end. It felt like... I mean, how much did he actually lose out? On 13,000 resources lost each. It's actually pretty even, so that ain't good for GuMiho. trading evenly is generally not the way of Mech. Usually you're looking to play extremely efficiently, right? So, like, going the other way to that is, like I say, maybe, perhaps, a slight concern. Now, Roach Ravager coming across, and one of the big things about Mech is that slow rebuild time, so looking to push right now and looking to just basically end this game in the next few moments. RagnaroK has had enough. He wants to shut this down and close this out. That's exactly what he's playing for. Ravager's going to get shot down. Banshees and Hellbats helping, though, and that is going to be a hold. RagnaroK gives up a lot of units here trying to break on through, and GuMiho holding on. Low supply, but alive. I mean, if you're alive, you've got a dream, right? If you're alive, you've got a dream. Our 5th base now coming up over on the far right side of the map here as well. So, sorry, 5th base. So, that's one of the big things. If you can establish this, GuMiho will have just a new round of economy. A new wave of economy, really, and that would be massive for him. You see that Neural Parasite coming up. That Burrow coming through, +2 flyer attack upgrade is coming in as well. Sanchez is going to get rid of a reasonable amount of creep teamers there to begin with, and now these few Cyclones going to have to go back in a way. The Lings run through. Cyclones kind of getting caught as the Hellions are there to push those Zerglings back. Neural on the way through. The Banelin's still building. And the Ultralis Captain is about to finish up as well. It's just getting that completed now. Going to be bringing that into play. Cyclones get a few lock-ons, and these Banes are going to keep on rolling at this as well. A couple of those Banes going down right now. Here comes that push in. Again, RagnaroK. One thing about RagnaroK is he didn't take this opportunity to really tech up heavily. He really took this opportunity to just end up building more of the same, and he doesn't get this Planetary. If this Planetary survives after rolling Banes into it, that is obviously very, very bad, and that's something you really do not want to have happen. So, yeah, that's pretty horrific, and now we're going to see these Hellions continue to chase down as well, so it looks really good for you. And GuMiho's going to get a lot of kills out of this, and he was right to jump on this. Getting rid of all those Banes, so you don't have Banes running into you as you come across the map. You've already kind of removed that threat from the table. Take on the Banelings now. How well will we do? I mean, the Banes on the top won't do anything. They kind of connect into one of the siege tanks. Really nothing too major. Cyclone's actually going to come back around. They're going to lock onto these Corruptors, clear those out, and this gives you a little bit more control in the skies, but actually they're able to stick around. These Banshees are being put in some serious freaking work. I mean, these Banshees, we're talking about what, like... Can't click on them. 2 kills and 0 kills. I honestly thought they might have had more at this stage. They've just had such a good game. I'm genuinely a little bit surprised they haven't even killed more, but I guess we've also seen a lot of Banshees, right? There's been 9. So obviously those aren't the same 2 Banshees. It just feels like there's always Banshees around doing work, but I guess that's meant to happen when you go Hyperfly Rotors and you build more than 10 of them. This is still a weird game where it feels like GuMiho is still kind of on the losing edge of it. One of the big things about 2K Atmospheres is there's a hell of a lot of bases. If you want to be successful here as the Terran player, you are going to need to shut down some of these Zerg bases, or make sure you've got a road to having all of the bases on your side of the map as well. Look at resources lost. It's a little bit favorable to GuMiho, but not so much to make up for being behind on bases. And there are already 7 bases up on the map right now from RagnaroK. So that's one thing GuMiho has to focus on, getting base 6. And he will take the forward base. That's also a rich Vespian gas, which will obviously only help his cause when it comes to mech. He might not be so bad. Well, Baal's coming down, tank gets shut down. Greater Spire is on the way through. So bringing that up here, and yeah, on we continue. There's our Ravager Bane Force. Let's settle down out the front. I mean, it's going to be a real duel here. So what's going to become very interesting is that GuMiho will be able to take this forward base, and if he can take this, he might be able to deny the bottom corner. If he denies the bottom corner, he might really push himself into a great position, and be able to kind of, you know, take that base for his own, and that might be where a lot of his future economy comes from here, actually. That's a very good possibility. Banshee's gonna go rolling out to the upper left. And this is nice. The Banshees act as a really good hit squad, right? And if there's nothing here to deal with these, they're just gonna get rid of a base pretty much right away. That's actually taking a lot of damage right from the start. Broodlords are going to lay siege to this base. Do we have much of an answer for Broods? Not really. We've got 9 Cyclones. One of the things I mentioned earlier was making sure you keep those Thors at a good count, because if Broodlords ever come out, you need a good amount of Thors, and it's one of the ways you can absolutely see Terran players lose games like this, where they've gone into good spots, but then they just lose complete control against the Broods. Now, a lot of what's on the map is Broods. There's not actually that much of a ground army otherwise. And everything's focused on the right here, so GuMiho's just going to swing left, and he's just going to commit to what is essentially a base trade on some of these outer bases. We'll see how well he can make this work for himself. 34, 37 SCVs going down, but GuMiho's maxed out. GuMiho's just going to have a massive army. As he loses workers, he rebuilds more units, and again, if he can actually just get that army all together and fighting, maybe that's an army you can't actually fight then, as, like maybe you genuinely just can't fight that then as good as Ragnarok. I think that's a real possibility, guys. I really do think it is. It's a real possibility. Raptors and Vipers still coming through. And we've seen the few Banshees getting kind of caught out here and there on the map. That was always gonna happen at some stage. 7 Infestors on the way out. The Thor about to finish up. The Hellions still on the way in as well. That Broodlord's back through the bottom. So now RagnaroK only has the 4 bases along the bottom and a 5th attempting to rebuild in that bottom right corner. It really does limit him a lot in terms of the economy, compared to what he was working on in the, not so long ago. Making our way around to this right-hand side, we do have Hellbats, tanks, SCVs, all coming across. I mean, the Thors as well. The Thors have a huge role to play against those Broodlords, of course, so that's something we're also kind of watching out for, how that plays out. Big fight just breaks up. The Infestors come underneath the army. Brian Clouds go down. There's the Neurals in the back. Do we have a scan to get rid of these Infestors? We do. The Infestors, there's nothing in range of them to start fighting them, though. So the Neurals are going to kill a lot, but there's still a lot of Thors on the left-hand side. And as the Thors get out of the Neurals here, they're still going to be standing. So actually going to be able to fight back against those Infestors as well. Oh my goodness, that's all of a sudden a bit of a turnaround, I do believe, as GuMiho is going to win this fight. At least he's the one with units left over, but RagnaroK is the one still mining a bit more, so he's able to actually have a bit of a better rebuild off of this. This is actually just kind of wild. Okay, drones go down. RagnaroK's going to try and mine the bottom right. There's an SCV, long-distance mining here as well. That's also something pretty special, as we just see our Thor's still pushing on through. A couple of Thors just went back away. The problem is the Ravagers and Roaches can't do great against Thors in lower numbers, and these Thors are actually doing pretty well against them. Good counterattack, going to get rid of a lot of these mules, but there's already been, I tell you what, 3 Banshees on the way. Because the Thors in the last fight got rid of pretty much all the anti-air. There's a few Corruptors left. Those Banshees could put serious work, and especially playing defensively here in some of these situations. This could be really, really good. Couple of drones going down. I was going to go pushing forward again. This hatchery's low, and it's one of the hatcheries that's still just mining. You lose this base, do you lose the bottom right as well? It's a possibility. Does GuMiho know about the bottom right mining? He does not necessarily. He's seen the creep there, but he doesn't necessarily know to go there, right? So that's kind of intriguing. Gonna start this fight. Banshee's coming in. The Corruptors just aren't here to fight either. I mean, there's 5 of them on the map, but like I say, they ain't here. There's going to be a couple of Neurals coming down from the Infestors, but there was a turret. They are actually in range of the turret. The couple of Thors are just going to go down, and it looks as though RagnaroK's going to win out this fight. The Banshees will get a few more kills, but again, the Corruptors are arriving. That means it's the end of these Banshees. Their reign is over. Although they will get out of here, so they can come back again later. And that's something at least, right? That's good news. Things coming in, get on top of this orbital. It's going to go down rather quickly as well. Otherwise, just seeing a lot of these units kind of making their way down toward the bottom right. Well, Cyclones coming through as well. It's keeping that production up also. Feelings start to make a move onto this. The Hellbath's going to stand up for themselves, try and hold this position. They do that rather decently. As we do continue to push these roaches away, Corruptors are going to go chasing those Banshees. I'm not sure if they're really going to be able to get that much done there. Banshees end up getting chased back. So a couple more Hellions coming through. And game really gets into a pretty cool state right now. 65 supply each. You got army supplies dead even across the board. Who needs to make what play? I don't think there's necessarily a... I mean, it's a tough call, right? Like, both of them are just in very, very tough spots to play out of. It's not an easy position for either player at the moment. Cyclone Lock-ons here, going to get rid of some of those queens. And these few roaches are going to make a play forward. I think we might just have a little bit too much when it comes to the army of GuMiho. Especially when you look at what's left from the Zerg. It's very low tech, and just a couple of tanks can do so well. GuMiho now mining off this 3 o'clock base. A couple of Cyclones going across the map. Actually becomes, again, such an interesting little situation that we've got going on here. Here comes the Roach Ravager force pushing through. A couple biles going down already. Let's see if the Ravagers can get rid of the tanks. That's great. The Cyclones want to try and kite. Alien's trying to do what they can. The Banshee's showing up again. The turret does so much against those Corruptors. Helps them to be zoned out so that the Banshees can do well. The Overseer went down. That's it. The Banshee can stay alive now. Okay, there's no Overseer. Okay, there's a couple more on the map, but they're just not here right now. 53 army supply of GuMiho. I think he's going to edge this game out in the end, guys. Which is kind of crazy. Hellbats and the tank still coming through. Those few roaches trying to do what they can. Let's see, Banshees are here as well. There's no... I mean, where are the Overseers? They're just not here. They are on the way over. Here they come flying in now, but the damage is already done. Those Banshees had free reign for too long. And now the Banshee's obviously going to try and maybe dart out. Okay, there's still one more Overseer. I think this is just going to be too much. RagnaroK has no money left. GuMiho has 0 gas left. This game genuinely came down to like the last few units that were standing. Which is pretty incredible. So that, my friends, is going to be it. That is going to be the final moments. And we have got ourselves A tied-up series, 1-1, GuMiho, making it happen. There we go. So it is going to be, obviously, GuMiho top left and RagnaroK bottom right for Game 3. So we play one of the better maps for Mech. I still got to stand by that, right? You know, that map, it's a good map for Mech. There's a reason it's good for Mech, and I don't know if we would see Mech again here on Lightshade. I think this map's actually much easier to stop the opponent getting into Mech. And even when it was Mech, it was kind of a very weird game. And honestly, this was a game that really came down to, like, inches at the very end, right? Like, there was very little difference between the two players. So it was a really close game, is what I'm trying to get to. Is what I'm trying to get at a little bit here. Just trying to say that this was... While it was nice to see GuMiho take a map, it wasn't like it was convincing or anything. It was kind of like, oh my god, what the hell are we watching? It was a little bit crazy, you know? So yeah, no, it's it was a fun game number 2. I mean, just a crazy ending. RagnaroK really seems to get into those situations all the time against Mech, where he's just in like really weird positions, or he's just not in. I feel like RagnaroK's weakness in ZvT is Mech a little bit. I just feel like he gets into way worse positions playing against Mech than he does playing against Bio. Seems like he doesn't have as good a control over the matchup when those factories start coming out. Let's see what happens on Lightshade. A map that a lot of the time the Zerg players tend to prefer. They definitely like to see this map in the map order. I don't think it's terrible for Terran though, or anything along those lines. Just think it's a fairly decent map for the a very decent map really, just for the Zergs. They just have a choice of bases they can take, right? That's always a good starting sign, and that kind of stuff in general. Just it's usually pretty neat. Let's see a couple of Marines here. Going to go after that Overlord and take it down. So Overlord will fall. So an Overlord sniped down. Just going to see that link speed still coming through. As that link speed comes up, the game looks pretty regular to begin with. My big question more than anything is, what sort of style does GuMiho play this time? Like, how aggressive is he going to end up being? Is there going to be anything like really out of the ordinary or anything, or are we just going to see something like, okay, he's just going for this, getting himself into a nice standard position, all that kind of stuff, you know? Those are the kind of interesting questions I have right now, I suppose. And guys, these are just replays. This series or tournament was played the other day. We got the replays, bought them off the organizers to be able to cast on our stream. So yeah, these are cast on the other day, but we do have DreamHack qualifiers starting in just less than an hour, so I guess we'll finish this series and maybe do one more series, and then we'll go into DreamHack qualifiers, go from there. Should be a nice little day of Starcraft for us at the end of it all. Thanks for joining us though. If you're enjoying the casting, hit that follow button. We're on the slow road to 100,000 followers on Twitch. Followers have been slow lately, which is fine. I mean, those things happen. It's not like it's like I'd rather followers be slow than the money be slow, than the subscribers and stuff be slow, right? But I've been kind of I got my eyes set on 100,000 followers. It's like, God, that'd be awesome. And it just feels like the follow count is just like stopped increasing. So if you don't already follow the stream, maybe consider dropping us a follow. Just one of those things. It literally does. It just helps my ego. But it also helps you guys to actually see when the stream goes live, and we do cast a lot of Starcraft. We'll be live pretty much every day this week. I believe we're live every day apart. No, I'm not live tomorrow, actually, I believe. It depends. Okay, I might be live tomorrow if I do the DreamHack NA qualifier. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the DreamHack NA qualifier is all. That's the only day that's kind of a maybe. The other days are, hell yeah, we're casting sort of thing. So that's the current deal. Two factories, an armory on the way. We're going to try and mech something happen here once again as GuMiho, so trying for more of the same, perhaps. We shall see. Two Banshees already approaching the front. First Queens are there. No lair just yet, but obviously there is a pretty reasonable Spore Crawler that's there to help out with this situation just in case it gets any more troublesome with those Banshees. So yeah, that shouldn't really be too much of an issue or anything. Just pull it back just for a few moments. Actually going to continue down toward the bottom right-hand side. So making their way across here. They're going to have a couple of drones they can pick through as well, so they can start with that. Thor's on the way out, so kind of a throwback to that double Thor drop. I kind of like that, man. I thought it was really cool to see that being brought back. It's the sort of thing that, like, that Thermal would do every now and again, right? Like, he's the sort of player who also kind of says, you know what? This build's kind of good, or it was kind of good way back when. Let's use like an old build. I always thought Thermal was very good at that kind of stuff, and I think GuMiho is obviously kind of always had that kind of trend about him as well. And I wouldn't even be surprised if Double Thor kind of came from GuMiho, right? Like if it was kind of like an OG GuMiho build, in which case even less surprising. I say I can't think who did it first. It was one of those things that really just came around and it was just part of the meta. It was back when. And I'll give you guys a timeline here. It was back when King Sage on Station was in the map where we saw this double Thor drop break out the meta for Mech and TvZ. And again, it was that kind of new build which it gave the Terrans a way to be aggressive on the map while playing Mech, so the Zerg didn't just run away with the game. And it basically revolutionized Mech play because all of a sudden everyone was able to play Mech again after not being able to play Mech for a while because they were able to just deal damage, they were able to slow stuff down. This is going to be Ling Bane muted now, so talk about the idea of playing Ling Bane muted against Mech. Not a big fan of it. Not that it won't work necessarily, it's just, it feels like a lot of work to make sure you can make it work. And it feels like a very risky way to play, you know, so... that is something which I'm wondering about. These Thors are doing good damage as well. I mean, that's 10 drones already going down. So the harassment here is pretty serious, definitely adding up you know, to a good amount so far. Now we're just going to be seeing a couple of Thors still having fun. 12 drones now dead in the game. Muta's on the way over. I mean, the Thors probably won't be able to do too well here, but they kind of attempt to evacuate at least a little bit. They'll back away with the help of those medevacs. Now they will go down. The Muta's just going to be a little bit too much for them in the end, as they will clean up house. We're going to see just more factories being added, but yeah, like I said, good initial damage. The only problem is the Thors go down, they're expensive, but the resources lost is still in favor of GuMiho, so it sort of speaks to how much he was still able to do. I mean, 16 drones killed, a lot of queens went down. In that regard, he's definitely into a very reasonable spot right now. Hellions run in, they're going to move into Hellbats as Lings try to surround. Hellbats going to clean out already, and the Muta's showing up to pick away at those Hellbats, so Hellbats will be picked away at as well. 8 workers falling. Tunnel pre-igniter still coming through, +2 vehicle plating, 7 Hellions, the 3 Thors. All the good stuff continuing through right now. They're just showing up, and they're going to be able to grab themselves a kill as well. I mean, one of the big questions is, can you keep the mutalist count under control? If the muta count gets out of hand, that's absolutely one of those scenarios when you do start seeing this game maybe slipping away from the Terran player a little bit. So, it is one of the things you got to be very careful with how you play against them, right? You just, you know, you don't want to get overrun on the ground, but then you don't want to only have muta defense, but you need to make sure you've got enough muta defense. It's a real balancing act of the composition that you're trying to play here, essentially, as the meching Terran. Muta's going to go around the other direction. Well, army coming through the center. Hellions wolf up into Hellbats, and it's going to be seeing those Banes already coming through. Mutalisks want to dive for the Cyclones. 2 Cyclones already picked off. And again, so the Thors that are the real issue. If the Hellbats can survive the Banes and tank the Lings for a little while, these Thors should work wonders against the Mutas. The problem is if the Lings get on the Thors and then the Thors don't get a chance to focus on the Mutalisks. That's where things maybe do still become troublesome here from GuMiho as he pushes on forward, get himself into a position. And RagnaroK is kind of just gonna fly on in. This is gonna be it. So this is our fight. I mean, a few more Banes. It just didn't feel like there was a lot for RagnaroK. The Mutas continue to come on through. GuMiho in his supply lead. He's got reinforcing Thors on the way. If he can just get those to pick off some of these lower health Mutas now, capitalize on what the previous Thors have already done, he should be golden to kind of push on through and win this. The supplies are still just about GuMiho favored. Really just. And not by a lot. More lock-ons, we are going to see Queens going down. Queens will fall, and that's going to be seeing this army of GuMiho pulling it back now as well. It's going to recollect and go again. Again, I mean, you look at what's out on the map, and 9 Banelings, Lings, and Mutas. I mean, with these Hellions, as Blue Flame Hellbats, again, if there's not enough Banes to get rid of those, the Lings don't do much. If the Lings don't do much, the Thors focus on Mutalisks, and that's when this game becomes a problem. A few Mutas going to find the Hellbats to the top side. Quite a lot of Cyclones now as well. Not as many Thors as before. We'll see if that's workable, as they're looking for lock-ons already, and they do get a couple Mutas. Some of them will be low at least before this fight happens. Again, you can see the problem with the Ling Bane. It's just not able to really find a proper way through and a proper way to get much done here. Here's are going to continue on forward. The Banelings are trying to reach wherever they can, but the RagnaroK supply is continuing to drop down low. Looks as though we really are going to have ourselves a GuMiho victory. I gotta say, I'm kind of shocked. I did not think this was going to be... Okay, I won't lie. So, I did see some results for this tournament, and I did kind of know that this series went to 3 games. And I thought that's why a lot of people were hyped about it, because like GuMiho won a map and everyone was like really excited about that. And that game too was crazy. I genuinely did not think GuMiho was actually going to win the series though. I was like, what? GuMiho showing up. I mean, this was your typical kind of RagnaroK has problems with mech, right? Didn't really realize it was mech for a long time. Got himself into a composition that doesn't work out very well. GG's.